Welcome to the Nightlife Podcast, where we discuss all things having to do with Knights of Pythias.
Welcome back to the Nightlife Podcast. I am not David Casto. I am Dylan Callahan. David's going to take sort of a back seat to this one because he admitted he doesn't know a whole lot about our topic today. So we're kind of going to go through a couple different things. We're going to talk a lot about regalia. As you can tell, we have fezzes in the room, and we have jewels and things to show off. We're going to talk about regalia, and we're going to talk about the uniform rank with our guest, Tommy Schroeder. Did I pronounce your name right? Tommy Schroeder?
Yep, it's Schroeder, like the Peanuts character.
Perfect. I love it. Okay, so, hey, everybody kind of knows about David and I. Tommy, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from, how you got started in Pythianism, and where you're going.
So my name is Tommy Schroeder. I'm a member of Fredericksburg Lodge number 22, Knights of Pythias in Virginia. As a young boy, I always wanted to be a knight. That's probably a good big thing, right? What young boy does not want to be a big knight in shining armor? And, part of being a knight is being virtuous and honorable, helping other people. I like to think I do that almost to a paladin level, maybe. But the thing that really got me to join the Knights was the sword right here, and it is a uniform rank sword. This sword was given to me a week before she died by my grandmother. Last thing she ever gave to me. It says "UR" with a lily on it. That's how I know it's a uniform rank. And if it says, it's kind of hard to see, but it was made by a company called the Fred and Batchelder Company, which was in Boston, Massachusetts. As far as I could tell, they went defunct sometime in the 1930s. And no, I'm not a uniform rank. Sadly, they're no longer around, as you and I both know, Dylan. But we are all Pythians, and that's what drove me to the Knights of Pythias. Is probably my favorite organization. Oh, one thing I've yet to show you is this is how dedicated I am. Sorry. I got the letters FCB tattooed.
Very cool. I love that.
Very awesome.
Yeah, we're all going to have to get matching tattoos after this show tonight.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Exactly.
So,
But
yeah,
yes.
okay. Let's go ahead and dig right into it, because I know, here's the thing. When I was preparing for this episode, it's when you're talking about the uniform rank and when you're talking about regalia, it's
Right.
just such a wide and vast and storied history, and where the order started and where it ended up. So let's ask our guest, Tommy, just kind of give us an overview of uniform rank. We'll start there. The history of that, and what's sort of the lay of the land nowadays.
So the uniform rank was founded around the same time as the main order. It was probably the first auxiliary, and it was recognized by the Supreme Lodge a bit after. It was founded by, I believe, a group of Civil War soldiers who were also obviously knights, who were used to a more militant lifestyle. So they were known for their swords and black coats. I actually have one of those coats too in my collection. Can't really turn the camera now anymore, can I? So, let me just stand up. So this is what the typical coats were. They also had these big, white pith helmets, which I don't really have one. My lodge has one in their museum room. I need to get one still. No, I don't have the full uniform kit yet. But they sadly went defunct sometime in the 1950s, which greatly shames me because my sword's a uniform rank sword. That's why I joined the Knights of Pythias. If they were still around, I'd join them in a heartbeat. Their symbol was a lily flower, so they're sometimes called the Army of the Lily because of that.
Yeah, I know in my own research, looking at the many illustrations and pictures and drawings, seeing the lily is very prominently placed. I know we both have some show and tell, so I'm going to... and by the way, don't worry about the audience not being able to see anything in close detail. We can add some photos in post, which by the point we already have, so the audience can see all this.
That's
But
good.
here's an example. We're speaking of the lily. You probably won't be able to see it too terribly well, but this is a captain's rank jewel. So there's some
Oh,
regalia
wow.
for you. And you can see at
Nice.
the center there, if it'll focus, is a lily on top of a globe. And I won't be giving away anything because this is fairly public knowledge. I mean, if you're seeing it on a jewel, it's not exactly a secret.
Same. Oh, no, I get it.
One of the symbols for the uniform rank was the double triangle, and I'm going to give you a couple examples of that. So if you notice, there's a triangle up top with a sort of a monogram that says UR.
Right.
And then on the bottom, there's another triangle with a monogram that says KP. So anytime you see Pythian-related regalia or illustrations that say URKP, that stands for Uniform Rank Knights of Pythias. And
Yep.
some other really cool aspects of this that I noticed, this is some esoteric stuff, David. I know your ears are pricked up hearing esoteric.
Yes, mine did too. We all love esotericism.
I know, it's kind of what keeps me going, right? So if you notice, there is an Ouroboros going around
Oh,
the
yeah, the snake
circle.
eating its own tail.
Yes. So I won't go too far into it because I do still respect uniform rank secrets, but there's a reason why there is a circular Ouroboros around
Yep.
the outside of that design. So it's really cool. I wish I had better lighting down here, but it's a really neat design, and it exemplifies so much of what we're really interested in researching and, you know, pie in the sky pipe dreams of maybe one day resurrecting it, right?
I will be
So,
100% in favor of resurrecting it. I'd be the first to jump aboard that ship.
so my question is that as Dylan mentioned, and it's true, I don't really know a lot about the uniform rank of Knights of Pythias, so I'm going to have some questions.
Yes.
My first question being, what were the qualifications to join the
Well,
uniform rank?
off the top of my head, first you had to be in the Knights of Pythias and had to have achieved the rank of Knight, obviously. I think that's the major one. Um, they were a very paramilitary type, like militant organization. I'm not sure if you've actually had to have served to join. Dylan might know that.
No, that's right. You did not have to have prior service record. Any Knight of Pythias could join, and you had to remain in good standing in a lodge of the Knights of Pythias.
Right. So, like I said, I knew that one at least. You had to be a Knight of Pythias and have achieved the rank of Knight and be in good standing. You know, similar to joining an independent body in Masonry or an auxiliary in any other fraternal order.
Yeah, and kind of another thing too with that, you had to go through the process of being accepted into the uniform rank. So like with Dokis, etc., you had to go through an investigation. Very beautiful, elaborate ritual. The ritual books still exist, and you'll find some of the most beautiful language in that. And I don't want to spoil it
Absolutely.
here because I came upon it in my research. I don't go around looking to find the secret rituals of organizations I'm not a member of, and sometimes that surprises people when they want talking about other organizations and they're like, oh, hey, yeah, so you've studied this, so you know this secret part, right? And I'm like, nope, don't tell me. I don't know. I don't want to know. It's not my secret to know.
That's what exactly I was telling David. Like, I'm not gonna go looking for rituals or stuff of organizations, especially ones that are still active around, because I might join them one day. I want to be surprised, and again, they're not my secrets to tell.
Yeah, don't spoil the movie. And I think that's the best sort of illustration. Everybody's seen The Matrix by now. David, have you seen The Matrix?
No, I have not.
For the sake
I
of
can't give
argument,
my
I know what it is. Yes, I have seen The Matrix.
Okay, all right. I will use my illustration now. If the audience if the audience is learning about the Matrix at the same time that the main character is, that is such a more of an impactful experience of watching the movie than if you read up, okay, yeah, I know the storyline, I know exactly how it goes, I've seen little clips and pieces here and there. It's kind of spoiled at that point. It's sort of a muted experience. Still go and see it and still have a grand time, but I definitely prefer, personally, for
exactly,
it to be a surprise.
exactly. Like, you can find anything online, technically, but at the same time, I'm like, no, don't tell me. I want to go in blind. It's more fun that way.
Yeah, and that's what I really loved about fraternalism is being able to experience these new things, like especially with Knights of Pythias. You know, sometimes you get odd fellows, or sometimes you get Masons who kind of tell you a little too much. But my experience with Knights of Pythias is I literally knew nothing when I joined, so I was blown away by the ritual.
I knew
So
what
Dylan's
they
saying, so, so Dylan's saying the uniform rank ritual is, out of this world.
exactly.
It's
It would
really
be.
beautiful.
I do trust him.
It would be, yeah, absolutely. And I kind of had an idea of what the Knights of Pythias ritual would be. Now, there are certain, I'm not going to say that online in public, of course, but there are certain aspects that did surprise me of it. I'm sure anyone who's a knight could guess what that would have been. But
Yeah.
I knew the story of Damon and Pythias and, the background of the organization that's what it was based on. I do some research before I join an organization, but I try to stay away from the ritual,
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, certainly. That's something I've thought about. We don't have to keep the story of Damon and Pythias a secret. There are some aspects of the story and a little bit of lore that somebody who's not a Knight of Pythias, if I were to discuss it with them, they might not really get the nuance. For
True,
instance,
but
the story of Damon's servant Lucullus and how
right.
he reacted to the situation between Pythias being imprisoned as a hostage for Damon, and that kind of backstory. And I think what we as Knights of Pythias are trying to do when we really deep dive and look at the ritual of the uniform rank, look at the regalia, look at the symbolism, we are trying to derive real personally affected meaning from that. And maybe somebody who isn't invested, just to the general public, wouldn't be quite so interested, or they might find inspiration from more obvious things or things that relate to their life more specifically. So, and that just makes sense. That's kind of obvious, right?
Absolutely.
So the uniform rank you said came around during or after the Civil War?
I believe shortly after. It was founded by veterans of the Civil War, but it was one of, if not the
Gotcha.
first auxiliaries of um, the Knights of Pythias.
And is there do you know where it was formed, like what state, or do we have that history of which lodge it was formed in or anything like that?
Indeed, yes. So I find here in Pythian Knighthood that the Supreme Lodge, at the session of 1878, appointed a special committee on uniform rank, with power to prepare a ritual, constitution, and general laws for the government and control of that rank. They did so, and in December of 1878, they instituted Lafayette Division Number 1 of Indiana.
Ah,
Whoa,
Indiana. Why does that not
very
surprise me? It's
cool.
always Indiana.
Indiana is a very impressive domain.
I know. I followed the
Very cool.
Rathbone Museum, which has not. I mean, it's mainly for Pythians, but has stuff from all sorts of fraternal organizations up there. But the Rathbone Museum, named after our order's illustrious founder, it's on my bucket list to see for sure. I follow them on Facebook.
We,
Sounds like Dylan and I need to go on a road trip.
well, I call it a pilgrimage. We have to make it austere.
Whatever you want to call it, I'm gonna grab the gummy bears for the trip.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of pilgrimages, another big place on my Pythian bucket list to see, on my bucket list in general to see is I want to leave flowers on the gravestone of Rathbone in Utica.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Very impressive memorial.
hmm
And the viewers will be seeing a photo of it now. So uniform rank, founded in 1878, the first division founded in Indiana. It's a very long and storied history. Something I wanted to kind of touch on is the reason why they started the uniform rank. And you'll find many, I was going to say many different, but they're all pretty much the same, many similar accounts of the demand for a drill rank, where we'll have uniforms. This will be kind of the parade,
Yep.
wing of the organization. And specifically, all these veterans of the Civil War, they're kind of interested to, I don't want to say relive the good old days because nothing good old about the Civil War, but, they had adopted, like you said, that militaristic lifestyle. And knighthood is largely a military nobility, right? So
Yep.
if you're a knight, your primary duty is to be literally the right arm of, your liege lord. So in addition to military duty, of course, you're expected to be well studied, and you'll have land and collect the taxes and things like that, depending on the exact location and time
Right.
frame you're talking about.
So I
But
got. So, speaking of drill regulations, I think I showed this, but I have this book on the uniform rank drills, right? It's in remarkably good condition. It's from 1911, and it still has the guy's name in the.
oh wow,
Yeah, and it was J.C. Clark, captain of Unity Company Number 4, KOP, Minneapolis.
Minneapolis. All right, yeah, that's a good one. I think what it boils down to is knighthood is the Knights of Pythias and knighthood are quasi-military at their inception, basically. And you'll
Mhm.
find that term quasi-military or
All
semi-military.
the
You'll
time.
find that
All
used in a
around.
lot of the. hmm Yeah, you'll find that in a lot of different places. So honestly, it just makes sense for the Knights of Pythias to have something like the uniform rank.
It'll be great to revive it one day, too. There's a
Hopefully
lot of
so.
There's a lot of guys at my lodge, a lot of brothers who says it's never going to be done. But I like to be an optimist. I like to believe that the impossible can be done.
Absolutely.
Were the Dylan, Tommy? Do you guys know where the so there's just the one rank, right? Is there just the one rank for the uniform rank,
so,
and then and as well as what are were the titles the same? Were the chairs, the officers the same in the Knights of
No,
so,
Pythias as
indeed.
they were in the uniform
so
rank?
no, absolutely not. So, I believe they would have had military ranks as sort of their titles, right? Like the guy in that book, he was a captain of a local division. They'd be divided into divisions and brigades. They would have had a very military themed ranking and hierarchical structure for the officers.
Indeed. So the executive officer was captain, and under him were first lieutenant and second lieutenant, also known as a herald. And then their desk officers included the recorder and the treasurer. And then you had a guard and a sentinel. So that would be cognate to the inner and outer guard.
So basically, same officer positions like in most lodges, but they would not have been called the same thing. And you told me, David, you're a member of a number of fraternal organizations. You're probably well aware of how that is.
Yes, very.
And the members of the order, they would be referred to as, you know how in the Dokis we're votaries, right? You
Right,
call the
Yeah,
Knights
the
membership
Knights
votaries.
votaries.
Loyal.
Yeah, we were knights loyal in the uniform rank.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very nice. I like that.
Knights Loyal, yep.
Sort of an inspiring title to bear.
It is.
All right, have we covered everything for uniform rank? Do we want to? We're going to talk about fezzes.
We're gonna talk
we, can,
about pheasants.
we can
Well, I
talk
was
about
actually gonna
pheasants.
ask. I was actually gonna do a little bit of a, if you guys don't mind. And Tommy, I'm glad you're here because I want your input on this. We got a couple emails to the Nightlife podcast, and one of the things that I shared with the brother, he was a new brother, he was a new knight, and just was kind of talking about being part of a smaller order and those types of things and the struggles that can come along with that. One of the things that I explained to this fellow knight over email was I explained to him that don't forget that this order was based upon two men, uh,
Exactly.
Damon and Damon and Pythias, and that you can have at the core of what Knights of Pythias is about. It only took two men to have that, And so, and that's where all of this stemmed from, was that story. So let us not forget that, even if we've got 6 guys at lodge, or 5 guys, or however many, that is enough members of our order to have the core understanding and belief and experience that they need to be having with one another. They don't need 30 individuals at a meeting to have the same camaraderie, to have the same experience as a lodge with only 5.
U.S. Coast Guard always says, "Do more with less."
Yeah, exactly. And I think that that's something that, one of the things I explained to him is, if we really focus on our lodge experience, that really changes the order and gets people more invigorated with coming to lodge. Me and Dylan have kind of touched on this a little bit, but we have our one fundraiser, we have, maybe 1 or 2 service opportunities, and then we spend the rest of our time making a lodge experience, and that consists of, Pythian education, talking about the brothers that are sick and what they need, talking about each other's lives, opening up at the lodge, and being able to have a real experience. As you guys know, we have a direct part in our opening ritual that basically allows us to be open and say, hey, we're among brothers. And to me, that was something that really spoke volumes to me about what it meant to be a Knight of Pythias. And so I love that aspect of the lodge experience. So
Very well
Tommy,
said.
tell us a little bit about your lodge experience. What is something that, I know that you love the uniform rake and those types of things, and unfortunately it's not happening right now, but I get the feeling, knowing Dylan, in the future it might happen.
Reach
Uh,
out to me. I'll be the
No
first to jump
pressure,
aboard.
right?
but Tommy, tell us a little bit about your lodge experience, some things that your lodge does to keep the members invigorated about Knights of Pythias.
So that's not a hard question to answer because my lodge, not to brag, is probably one of the bigger lodges in terms of membership size.
Okay.
We have 2 past Supreme Chancellors. That being said, there's a lot of perks to being a Knight of Pythias. In my lodge, each member is usually given a key card. We can enter and leave the building whenever we want, which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. We do a lot of fundraisers, and like I said, I love helping people. I do that to an almost obsessive degree. And all the charitable organizations, the good work we do, just makes my heart just proud to say that I'm part of such a large, important organization. Just the history behind it is
Yeah.
fascinating too. We have a
Sounds like
little
you guys have a tennis court or a swimming pool, some kind of indoor swimming pool with a card checking in and out, almost like a YMCA or something.
kind of. We don't really have a swimming pool though. It'll be cool if we did.
Gotcha. So these service projects that you do, can you tell us about 1 or 2 of them that you guys participate in?
Well, we do a lot with the Big Brothers and Big Sisters. The local county's women's club, we help out with them, and the battered women's shelter, and crime solving, things like that.
Gotcha.
Just,
Interesting. And you mentioned earlier, Tommy, is it correct? You guys have a Pythian Sisters Temple
we
associated
do.
with your lodge?
Yes, we do. Temple number 1 in Virginia. Piffing Sisters Temple number 1. Yep.
Wow. And what does do you guys do a lot of crossover? Do you guys work together?
We
What are the
do. Very
Pythian
much.
sisters? What are the Pythian sisters doing?
They do a lot for us. We've actually recently just had a lasagna dinner in honor for them. Um, they help out a lot with our lodge events and we with our annual Christmas party, things like that. Um, they're both great organizations, both great under the banners of Epiphanyism. Now, to be honest, I don't know too much about what the women do yet, but I do know they're very proud of their membership as well.
Gotcha. That's awesome. I've messaged a couple of Pythian sisters on Facebook, haven't had any response yet, but we're trying to get someone from a Pythian sisters temple to come on here on our podcast and talk to us about what they're doing and what the Pythian sisters is and how do we grow
right?
that side of the order.
I might
What's the
might be
key?
able to help you. So I
Okay,
think that so the current Grand Chief of Virginia, her name is Debbie. I'm not gonna say her last name on air publicly. I'm not sure if she wants that here or not. But next time I see her, I'll talk to her and mention her a bit you to her. She's also she's also the wife of one of the members, and she is past chancellor commander of the Knights of Pythias Lodge, Lion's Truth in Alexandria.
gotcha.
So she might be able to help you.
Wonderful.
If
Yeah,
not, I know a few of the sisters in the temple who might be willing to interview you. I'll try to.
gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I do really do appreciate that. Dylan, what questions do you have here for Tommy?
Well, first of all, I really like the name Lion's Truth. That's a particularly impressive
Yep.
name for that. Yeah, so I think the number one question I have is how'd you get your fez?
So, this Fez was a gift to me. He knows I've been collecting off Pythian stuff, has too much to give, so he gives a lot. I'm sure everyone here has heard the name Mark Mead. He's past Supreme Chancellor. He's a member of my lodge, and so he gave me. I also have a Doki's one, but that one is in too terrible shape, so I'm not going to wear that one around. Now I will be honest. It's not in the original state he gave me. I mean, it is, but it isn't. I put a Fez liner in it so it stays upright. Because people watch cartoons and you think that the fezzes are naturally this shape. No, you have to put a fez liner. Fezzes are very crushable hats, surprisingly.
Wow, okay. I learned something there.
Yes. So with Tommy, with the uniform rank and the stuff that you're collecting, and Dylan has seems like numerous artifacts of the uniform rank. You know, does studying that bring you closer to Knights of Pythias? Has it given you a deeper meaning, even though we don't have the uniform rank anymore? Has it brought you closer to the
I would
foundation
say
organization of Knights of Pythias?
I would say absolutely yes. I would not even be a Knight of Pythias myself if it were not for a uniform rank artifact, like I mentioned earlier,
Solid
in the first
point.
place.
That's a really
Gotcha. And
solid
Dylan,
point.
hmm And again, I always think it's important to learn from our past, but not just for fraternal orders, but in general. It's always a good idea to look to our past and learn. They always say history is doomed to repeat if we don't learn from it, right?
That's
And
right.
and like you said, I love history. That's probably a historian's curse as you look at current events, right? Now, I'm not going to name names. It could be, I don't want to, like, keep politics out of it, but it's like invading the Middle East, right? The Crusading Kingdoms did it, the Romans did it, the Greeks did it, the Egyptians did it, the Macedonians did it, but this time it'll be different, right? It's the historian's curses to always do, you learn from the past, but the people in power, they never learn from the past like you do. You're like, no, this won't work, right? Sorry, I'm rambling here a bit, but I think in general, it's a good idea. Like, history is important because just so you know what works and what doesn't work,
Hmm.
Or
exactly.
hmm And I believe the uniform rank is such a deep part of our heritage. I remember reading this old book online. It was a Pythian Manual. I do not have a copy yet. I need to get myself a copy, but I believe it was like it was a book on the Pythian knighthood, and there was a chapter on the uniform rank on it. And it said this was written back in the 1800s, but the Pythian sisters were already a thing, the Dokis were already a thing, and it said the preamble was like the uniform rank. At this point, obviously not so much anymore since they're no longer around, but said the uniform rank has done more for the order of any other for the main order of Knights of Pythias than any other auxiliary at the time, essentially. And it's sad that it's no longer around. Like, I think it's an important part to look for, to learn from it. It's such a deep part of our heritage as Pythians.
Mhm.
Gotcha. And so, Dylan, how do you feel about that? I mean, I know that you've studied the uniform rank and those types of things. I mean, has it brought you closer to Knights of Pythias in general?
Yes, I would say so. And if you hadn't asked, I don't think I would have honestly thought about it in those terms because um, I sort of mentioned to you guys when we were talking before we started recording. I kind of view research of the uniform rank, such as it is, sort of like a mystery or a historical puzzle to solve, and that sort of energizes me to look into it. And then you really look into it and you start looking at why they were organized and how they were organized and sort of the trappings they put into it, and it's some really beautiful stuff, and it turns out to really enrich my experience as a Knight of Pythias. And I can actually give a really fun example of a nugget of fun that I found. The uniform rank was very well renowned for its military drills. You know, they're in these flashy uniforms and they're all lined up perfectly as militaries do. And they were putting on a show, an exhibition for the Governor General of Canada. I can't remember off the top of my head the year, but I believe it was the 1890s. They were putting on a parade for the Governor of Canada, Governor General, that is. And the Governor General said, you know, you have such fine crack troops here, and they're drilling so magnificently. Uh, Hearing that there's 20,000 or so more back in the United States, I'm almost afraid of an invasion. You know, you guys could, take over. And I believe it was James Carnahan, the commanding officer, said, "Never fear. If we wanted to take Canada, I would do it with the men I have here."
I heard of that. Yeah, I've heard of that story. I love that. Like, there were definitely, pardon my French, I'm allowed to swear one time, right? There were definitely bad A words.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and it's kind of like, of course, he didn't mean that. He didn't mean that in a demeaning way. It was more, I kind of like that kind of humor where you can joke around and really kind of revel in what you got going on. You know, I would love to see the Knights of Pythias really, revel in the lessons, the esoterics, the history, and just look around, read the books, look at your brothers, and say, yeah, we got a good thing going on here, don't we? It really
Exactly.
can be impressive.
Exactly. I love my brothers, don't get me wrong, but it seems like a lot of them are just more interested, in, watching football and the social events. Not that those aren't important, but I think, it's also important we learn about our history and the meaning behind our rituals and everything.
Absolutely. And you guys were talking before about the story of Damon and Pythias. That was only two people, and it founded that inspiration founded an order of, at one point, hundreds of thousands. And I was kind of thinking about that while you were talking, and I think it is that when you have as few as two people, you can kind of boil down. It sort of clears out the haze and the noise, and you can really boil down who you are and see yourself reflected in another person. We
Hmm.
all of our senses are coming through, our eyes, ears, nose, etc., etc., and it's all being filtered by our one brain, right? And that's how we're perceiving the world. We're relying on our own senses and relying on our own inner self to both perceive the world and then kind of decode it and understand it and come to an understanding about the outside and the inside, right? So when you have one other person, you're seeing a reflection, and they can give you feedback, and you can give them feedback, and then it's a self-perpetuating, loop of reflecting what it is that makes us who we are. And I think that's a really powerful existential thing. Anybody can experience that, but I think especially when you're in an organization like the Knights of Pythias and you're truly contemplating and meditating on friendship and inner confidence, self-confidence, and then I think it's a really cool thing that the English language does with the word confidence. You have it with yourself, but then you can also have confidence in others, and that's a really interesting concept to me because self-confidence is an inward-looking concept, and you can have the exact same thing with someone else. I just think that's a really cool feature of the word, and I think we're kind of lucky to have that sort of coincidence. We could have had a completely different word for confidence than others, right? But I think it's a good thing that our language actually does that, and you can kind of think about it in that way more easily.
Mhm. Language in general is fascinating.
Yeah, very much so.
No, I love that. That's something that, from the story of Damon and Pythias, even though um, even though the other member wasn't, coming back on time, it was Pythias, right? It was Pythias who wasn't coming back in time, and
Damon,
sorry, Damon, and
you're good.
nope, I appreciate you correcting me. No, thank you. And that is that you know he said, I still know that my brother, he's not doing it on purpose. He had confidence that it was for some outside reason, outside force against him. But he knew that his brother, if he could, would be back.
Hmm.
And I think that shows a lot about what you're talking about, and having that confidence in yourself, and having that confidence in your brother, and in others.
And he was really cried too. Like it was put to his limit on having that confidence, because
Hmm.
it's easy to say you can have confidence, but when you're like when Pythias was about to be executed, right? And it's like last moment right before the axe swings, right?
Yeah,
Like that's when your confidence is really put to the test right before your death.
Hmm.
yeah. And there's that view of the story where they, Dionysius says, I want to be a part of your order. I want to be a part of your friendship. And they deny him membership basically into their friendship, into their order. What that speaks to me is that, Dionysius wasn't prepared in his heart to make those types of commitments. He wasn't ready to have that confidence in others, and really not in himself.
Mm.
And they could see that because of his daily actions, because of the type of person that he was in his daily life. And I think that's what spoke volumes to me about the story. And that is that if I want to be counted among those people who someone could look at and say, I want Dave to be a part of my membership, I want Dave to be a part of my order, what am I showing them in my daily life to let them know that's where my heart is? My
Mm.
my heart is ready to take upon that commitment or covenant with others within this order. And so that is always on my mind every day. Am I showing that to the outside world? And so I keep that with me in my daily actions, and those types of things.
Yeah, I think you've really lighted on one of, and there's so many sub subjects in there, right? You've really lighted on a really beautiful part of the story that I also appreciate. And by the way, a minute ago you said it was Pythias who was late. In some of the earlier versions of the story, it is Pythias who is late. The names and roles are reversed actually.
Huh.
So
Oh,
yeah,
gotcha. Okay.
if you read Pythia Knighthood, at some point I believe it's Justice Rathbone himself who says, "Yeah, the play by John Banham, the original, I believe classical, no, ancient Greek stories,
Yeah.
don't get caught up on the exact details of okay, was it Damon or was it Pythias? It's interchangeable as long as you're understanding the story. Pick a version. Obviously, we did for the ritual, but to understand the story, it's those moments more than the names that are important.
Exactly.
And when you lighted on Pythias a moment ago, Tommy, you mentioned that Pythias said it's not because he's abandoned me, it's because something has gotten in his way. He's been delayed for a reason he can't avoid, right? There is a
Hmm.
moment, I think, in one of the plays that draws that out a little bit more, in fact. Pythias begins to not curse Damon, but to say, hey, I just sacrificed my life. There's my fiance over there. She's going to lose me. I'm going to lose my entire life. I'm going to lose everything because Damon didn't return. I put myself in this situation. What have I done? And then he stops and says, wait, no, what am I saying? I'm getting caught up in the heat of the moment. I'm letting my emotions get the better of me. I know Damon. He wouldn't have done that to me. He's coming back, and even if he doesn't, I'm being true to my word. A very interesting moment occurs later after Damon returns. Pythias has become so ennobled by the thoughts he had just had moments ago that even after Damon returned and said, all right, I'm here to take Pythias's place, Pythias said, no, actually, the hour has passed. You didn't come back in time. By right, I should have my life taken. You go back to your wife and child. And I'm not married yet. It's not as great of a loss. And that's when Dionysius steps in and says, hold on, this is weird. This is something else. I wasn't expecting this. What are you talking about? I got to get in on this. And they're like, okay, well, I'm sorry, but you live
And I can
for
understand
greed.
getting worried. Getting worried when you don't know what the heck is happening. Like, trust me, I get that all the time. But the important thing is, they were very loyal to each other.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And to kind of wrap this, because the core of this episode is the uniform rank.
Right.
And to tie it back in, and from my perspective, and I want to hear your guys's too, from my perspective, tying this whole episode, what we've talked about, back to the uniform rank, the thing that I think of is that those brothers who went through something like the Civil War, it makes sense that they would want something, so they have the Knights of Pythias. It makes something that brings them almost closer to that brotherhood they once had on the battlefield. And
Sounds
that
about
makes
right.
sense. And so when you have an order about friendship and about unity and about camaraderie, it's not surprising that those guys said, hey, this is probably one of the hardest, roughest things I've ever been through my entire life. Here are the brothers who went through it with me, no matter where they served, and really on whatever side. I want to be able to have something special that we're able to participate in with one another to kind of reminisce in those things and those times, but in a more peaceful way, right? And
Right.
so it makes sense to me that the brothers created an order like the uniform rank. Dylan, Tommy, how do you feel about that? Is that
I
you
think it's
think I
pretty
have on
accurate.
right?
I think one of the greatest ways to bring brotherhood together outside of fraternalism, of course, is, and I hate to say this, but combat, because very few people who's not been in combat like can understand what that's like. I can't understand what that's like, right? So that's why you always see, even today, camaraderie between people who served. The Marine Corps, they like to say they're a big brotherhood and everything, and you see that through all times and periods, right? If you've been in combat, that's almost like an initiation ritual in of its own. Something that
Exactly.
everyone's been through, and not everyone's been through, but the people who've served alongside your brothers have been, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Dylan, you want to bring us home on this episode?
I have an excellent segue. You're going to love this. What is the motto of the uniform rank? Honor, justice, and loyalty. So
Oh, I love that.
Me
I mean,
too.
you say you bring it home. The uniform rank brings it home. They bring it home for the entire thing. Um,
That's awesome.
I I agree completely with what Tommy just said. When it's a special thing to experience in life, combat. It's something we never want to experience. In fact, you'll find a lot of the flowery language literature talk about the swords that are never meant to be unsheathed. They're there to be a symbol, right? And that's really the ideal. if we can achieve those virtues of honor, justice, and loyalty without bloodshed, that has to be better than by any other way. And of course, that's not to say when blood is shed that there's any dishonor in that. Of course, I don't mean that, but it is to say the purpose of a military primarily is defense. You're defending something. When you go out on campaign to some foreign land, you're not going to find a whole lot of people who are interested in pure greedy conquest and annexation of your neighbors and things like that. Those are typically the bad guys, and they typically lose, right? It's always in defense that wars are at the very least justified. And I think that's where you find the honor and the justice, and then finally loyalty. They build on each other.
Well said. I love that. Well, Tommy, thank you so much for your time. Dylan and I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. I know Dylan for sure appreciates being able to discuss and talk about the uniform rank with someone who's more educated than I about the subject, so you can have a real conversation.
Yeah, you're really boring, David. You know I don't like to talk to you.
So, but again, Tommy, thank you so much, and I wish you and your fellow knights there in Virginia the best of luck, and hope that your order grows there, and hopefully maybe at a Supreme session or in another time that we can meet each other in person.
Oh, that'll be great, and I hope your orders and lodges grow as well, brothers.
Dylan, what are you showing us?
It is a Pythian pin I got from now past Supreme Chancellor Mark Mead. Huge shout out, showing a map of the state of Virginia.
Oh, I think I have one of those.
And further shout out to the good past Chancellor. I have his name inscribed on the coin.
Yeah, I have one of those challenge coins as well. Let me go get it. Well, it's probably my jacket or my coat. So like you said, I have to go cleaning. But I do have one of those coins.
Yes, everyone should get one. If you don't have one, buy them today, 1995.
Yeah.
Well, hey, guys, thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you later.
Thank you, later, Tommy. Brothers. Thank you, David.
Thank you. Hope your lodges and orders grow as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.